I joined as a community manager for Asphalt 8. I also didn't know much about cars when I was joining. I don't even have a driving license. Once I went to go-karts, I was almost kicked out. I was such a bad driver. Sometimes I would make live streams and play the game. People were a little bit laughing and then I'm a noob, but that's also fine. You know, you can be a good community manager, not necessarily being the best at the game.
Welcome to this episode of the Community Lounge, the podcast where I chat with community managers from the video games industry who tell me their story, talk about the challenges they face, and share tips to help other community managers do their job better. I'm your host, Steve McLeod. Now, before I begin today's episode, I want to tell you quickly about the guides we are creating for community managers. Some of these guides are already finished and we've been getting great feedback about them. Topics we've covered so far include your first week as a community manager, what actually matters, burnout, recognizing it, dealing with it and preventing it, and becoming a community manager, real life stories. You'll find all of our guides and past episodes at featureupvote.com/thecommunitylounge. You'll find that link in the description. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Okay, on with the show. Today, I'm joined by Julia Rozwens. Julia has worked in community management for around 10 years, making her one of the most experienced community managers I've had on the podcast. Welcome to the show, Julia.
Hi, Steve. So happy to be here.
I should add that we are currently working together. We are colleagues at Feature Upvote, where you are our content marketing manager.
Yep, I joined Feature Upvote, what was it, 4 months ago, right? I think that's been it. So it's a little bit different thing than community management itself. However, I think it's very cool to work on a tool like this with the experience that comes from being a community manager for over 10 years right now.
Now, if we get time, perhaps we can talk more about why and how that happened. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us where your path into community management started.
So that's quite interesting one, I would say. I studied law, and once I finished law, I did work in a tax advisory company for 2 years, more or less. And yeah, it was great in some ways, but I figured out it's really not for me. It's not only the job, but the whole culture of being part of a law company is something that, when you are 20 years old, looks very, very serious. And maybe you think this is not exactly where you want to be in, 10 years, or you think it's the rest of my life. I will be just going, dressed in, with using the dress code and being fancy and things like that. And I didn't think it really fit my personality and what I really like doing when I'm at the office. And I always like games. So my dream was to start doing something in gaming. However, like with the law background, I didn't know what exactly could it be. And I managed to pivot into marketing, first starting with startups, UI, UX, things like that, which was step better, but still not there. And eventually when I was doing marketing for one of the companies I worked in, I was super active on Twitter. I was already building kind of my persona on Twitter, and I would be tweeting about games and things like that. And eventually I stumbled upon a tweet from Omnidrone. It was a small company from Barcelona. They were searching for a community manager. And at the same time, I was actually going to Barcelona to visit a friend of mine. I dropped them a message. I came to the interview. And a month later, I was hired. I remember later my marketing manager said, like, when I hired you, I went back home and I told my wife, we've just got a lawyer to be our community manager. I don't know if I'm crazy or not, but this is how it started. So at Omnidrone, I spent like 3 years and it was an amazing experience. It was very cool because since it was such a small company, when I started, it was 15 people. I was doing a bit of everything. So community management, marketing, I was giving tools to look really into players' data and do investigations when there were some exploits. It was a very, very interesting start to community management and gaming itself.
That's fantastic. I don't think I've ever heard of a lawyer becoming a community manager before. I think that's got to be unique. You mentioned Omnidrone, and I actually went there once for What was the game
Uh,
testing? Some early version of their game.
Yeah, I think it was Titan Bro. Yes, as I said, I had to wear many hats in this position, and at one point I was recruiting players to play our games. Usually I was targeting younger, I think, players, but I also checked with friends I had on Facebook, and think you are one of the people that responded to my Facebook post. If I remember it correctly, it's been a while ago right now. No, it feels like forever.
Yeah, I remember at the time doing that usability, that playability testing or play testing, and thinking like, it was my first insight to see how games are made. It's fascinating to see how a game is early on. So that was
Yeah.
Omnidrone, and then you were after Omnidrone, you went on to
Gameloft. So
Gameloft.
straight to Gameloft, where then I spent, oh my God, 8 years, I think, at Gameloft, if I'm correct. So yeah, basically there were some changes at Omnidrone. We moved more into production rather than publishing. So I started to search something new, where I could continue develop also my skills as a community manager. And Gameloft was searching for someone to join the Asphalt team. It was a very interesting moment because at that point we were actually pivoting a little bit from just working on Asphalt 8 and developing Asphalt 9 at the same time. So I joined as a community manager for Asphalt 8. However, I was supporting Asphalt 9 from the beginning. So it was really cool because on one hand, I could work with a very established community that was players of Asphalt 8, and that was cool because, first of all, I also didn't know much about cars when I was joining. So it was really good to meet the community that was a bunch of experts in the end of the day. I was mostly working with the player mods. We had our Skype chat, and really I wanted to give shout out to all the people that worked with me in this first month because I learned so much from them, and they helped me to understand the game much better. But at the same time, we were developing, just about to launch Asphalt 9. And that was also very interesting to actually have this new game with new mechanics, new physics, the new engine, and looking just amazing. And it was also cool because in the end, we thought that maybe Asphalt 8 will kind of die slowly after Asphalt 9, but it didn't happen this way. And I worked on this with these two communities that were a little bit similar, but not exactly the same.
So two questions I want to ask about that. If I understand correctly, car games are not your thing. You said you weren't into cars. So
No.
how is it being a community manager for a game that's not your type of game? Do you feel like you're faking it, or do you feel like you really got into it and you actually enjoyed it after all? Or
I mean, I did enjoy it a little bit more than originally, but I would like to say it became one of my favorite games. I think like just somehow I'm not the best at racing games. Like I just don't feel it very well. I don't even have a driving license. So and I think once I went to go-karts, but I was almost out. I was such a bad driver. So not really my thing, but in the end, you learn so much about cars. For example, new license, the licensor we were working with, you start actually recognizing cars, which I didn't do before. For me, everything, this one is blue and this is gray, and I'm like, I know this cars now, and I know a little bit more. And you are also transparent with your community. I was never pretending to be the best driver ever. Sometimes I would make live streams and play the game. People were a little bit laughing that I'm a noob, but that's also fine. You can be a good community manager, not necessarily being the best at the game. And of course, I had to play the game. It's one. Of course, I did improve over time because you have to play it to actually be able to help players, to communicate to them to also basically know what you're talking about. But car games never became my top favorite games.
the second question I had based on that experience with Asphalt 8 and 9 is how did you handle two communities that were similar but different? Like you had to like keep changing hats, or how did you manage to balance that?
Not really. I mean, we would work with them in a quite similar manner, but communication would be different depending on Asphalt and Asphalt 9, Asphalt 8 and Asphalt 9. but I mean, the community and the game was a little bit different, but not enough to make it like we completely need to change the tone of voice. We completely need to talk differently to our players. There were still mostly guys, in a specific age playing the game. So just some who preferred the style of Asphalt 8. That was a little bit more grounded in reality, where Asphalt 9 was much more, with more tricks, more arcade feeling. But it wasn't that difficult that it was a completely different type of a player, but we need to change so much. Plus, I had a lot of help again. So when I was working on Asphalt 9, we had another, community manager. So I had time to also kind of use Asphalt 8 that was established to learn more about it, and then I could, move to Asphalt 9 in the more way that helped me to already know the basics and actually take care of the game.
So let's go back to your law degree and your experience as a lawyer. How has that been helpful in your work in community?
I would say, first of all, I feel like, so when you are in a big company as Gameloft, you work with many stakeholders, and it does include working with the legal department, because whatever we do, we need to check it with our legal department to make sure that everything is okay, the rules are made, that when we work with player moderators or content creators, all those things rules and guidelines have to be in place. So I think I had a very good grasp on that. We need to really talk with the legal team. I honestly, again, shout out to all the legal team from Gameloft, because really love those guys. And I think because I knew the, law and the basics, it also helped me too with the communications with the stakeholders that were coming from legal department.
So do you have a story of a memorable positive moment as a community manager that you can share with us?
To me, the best memory I have is going to Gamescom with Asphalt 9. We had a big tournament with Lamborghini, I believe so. And basically, it was the first time I would go to such a big gaming event. And on top of that, I was just basically there to coordinate everything with our players, with the ones that were playing the esports tournament. I knew some of them because most of them were coming also from the content creator program that I was running. But there were, of course, some others that qualified through the, all of them qualified through the events, but some of them were not part of this content creator program. So first of all, it was so great to meet the players in real life and hang out with them and see how passionate they are about the game, and then just be part of this event. I was like, it was a full day of doing everything from talking with the video production crew, tweeting live, making sure that the live stream is going well, hanging out with people and just making sure they are happy. We would also go, we're thinking on the rides by, it was Porsche. I said it wrong.
You already said you're not a car person.
Because now I remember driving in those cars, but in general, it was one of the most exciting days for me, just being a part of such a huge event, a big tournament that we had connected with Asphalt, and just seeing how happy and excited everyone is about it. And then you are being a part of it and help to make it even better, make sure that the experience is basically better for all the players all around. It was amazing. It was really my favorite part of working as a community manager.
Did you feel like a bit of a celebrity with all those people thinking, wow, she's part of the people who make Asphalt?
A little bit. I didn't want to say that, but yes. I was using a nickname, Mina, when I was working at Gameloft. And yes, I had a friend laughing that he was like, and somebody was like, oh, this is Mina. and you were like, oh, wow. I wouldn't call it a celebrity, but at least, people recognize you, and it's a nice feeling.
One of the things I really enjoy about selling or creating a tool that's used in the video games industry is at the events I do sometimes have meetings with people who have worked on games I've played and loved, and I actually get a little bit starstruck myself. And of course, when I meet them, I realize they're just a regular person who happened to be working as part of that team, but still, you can't help, I think, but be a little bit impressed when you're talking to somebody who actually made something you play and love.
Yeah, and even it works the other way around. Like I would, I don't know, you're on a plane and you see a kid in front of you that plays Asphalt, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. A few times I always feel like, hey, actually, if you check the live stream, you can find me there. I've never done it, but it did cross my mind.
Moving on, how do you learn how to do your job better as a community manager? What resources or what processes or habits have you found that help you do your job better as a CM?
So as I already mentioned, the first step was really, really like my player moderators. They were just basically they gave me all the knowledge I needed to understand the game better. They helped me to learn about also almost the history of Asphalt. So, I had a context when it came to a lot of things, even working with other players or knowing about the events. So it really helped me to understand why community is reacting certain way to certain features and events that were developing. So that was the first thing. Second of all, of course, the people I worked with, Fabian, that was my direct manager when I joined Gameloft. He was so helpful, giving me feedback about the content planning, copies, how to, run content. So yes, the mods, your peers, then of course you just play games and you are part of community yourself. So I would go to Discord, Reddit, Facebook, and, all the social media of the games I love playing. So you check that out. You try to also find the most interesting posts, interesting events, interesting campaigns that you would like to copy, adapt, or, basically get inspired by. And then it's just, it's just the work. And the more you do it, the more you communicate. I think with every day, you just become better and better. I didn't read any specific book on community management. I don't think so. It's mostly the materials I would find online, rather than bigger books or things like that.
You've been doing community management long enough that you started before the books existed, with 2 books we've covered in previous episodes by Victoria Tran and by Carolyn Vent, but you had nothing, right? In
No,
terms
not
of
that I know.
yeah.
It's very different than law,
Yeah.
Law, there's books about everything, and this is how you're gonna learn, your trade. And with community management, I really think it's more about really getting into the game, knowing your community, knowing, getting the best information from your peers, and adapting it as you go, and also using your personality, because I would say there's no one way that you can do things correctly as a community manager. Really, depending on who you are, you should really capitalize on this, and basically use your personality to do better things, and see what are you can do to where you feel comfortable at. So live streams were, for example, not my favorite thing, and I mean, I wish I was better in that, and maybe I should, train a little bit more. But you don't force yourself to do things you are not comfortable with in the end of the day. Of course, train, do better, but find your niche, find your way of working with the community and the game you're working on.
I think that's really wise. Doing things that are not part of your personality, not right for you, I think it leads to burnout if you force yourself to keep doing them. Sometimes you try streaming and actually after a while you really develop a knack for it. So I guess
I'm not saying not to try. That's not my point here. But if you really feel that you are struggling with something and it's not a necessity, I would say go and find something else that can still give you great results, but will be a little bit different than what you've been trying until now.
So you mentioned when you started with Asphalt 8, there were moderators already. I assume they were volunteer moderators from the community. I guess after a while, some of these no longer have the time or interest. How did you go about replacing moderators? What do you look for? How do you do it?
Well, it depends. So where my focus was, so first of all, we started with forums. So my first moderators were coming strictly from Asphalt 8 forum that we had. Then we moved to Discord. So you just find people that are on your Discord. First, it's just the ones that are more active, helpful. You already see people that they are there every day and they are actually helping people by answering the questions when they don't have to in theory, but you already are able to spot those champions, those people that will be helping you out throughout the, later, and you basically approach them. Of course, then we had more structure, we had the rules. There were a few things, about it. I'm not going to go into details of, regulations regarding that. But basically you try to find people who like the game, are willing to share their knowledge, that they know Discord. It's not a must, but also, if somebody knows already some bots, how to issue warnings, how to issue bans and things like this. And then, of course, you want people who are also liked by the community. So it's important not to pick people who will be using a power of moderator to, to go maybe against some people they don't like. So you need to also watch out for this kind of behaviors that might be a little bit dangerous, because when people love the game, they can also a little bit abuse it. But most of the mods I worked with were amazing, really great people who are just basically, loving the game and trying the best to help the upper players.
Wonderful. As I'm listening to this, I actually recalled a situation in which I had been overly active in a forum, old school forum, maybe 10 or more years ago. And at one point, they just added me as a moderator and he gave me full admin rights. They didn't even give me any rules or any guidelines. They just added me. I remember the note was I've made you an admin, do what you like with it. It's wow, the power I felt.
Yeah. But it's, I think that's why it's important to give some guidelines. Of course, in the beginning, it was house. I didn't know what I'm doing. I mean, maybe didn't know. It's the first time you work with the mods. They knew more than I do. But then after the years, the process would change. So, if somebody was becoming a moderator, I would have a little survey before that. Then I would provide them with the PDF with guidelines of, what is expected, what are do's and don'ts, how to, basically use Discord. So to make sure that people also kind of know what we are supposed to do, because it might seem easy or logical, but then, the devil's in the detail. But yeah, now myself, I became a Reddit moderator for the first time.
How does that happen?
So I just joined the community of one of the games I was working on. I introduced myself. They made me a mod, so now I'm getting all the Reddit moderators' information. But to be honest, I've not been very active as a Reddit moderator so far. But I think it can be a useful thing to have still.
Yeah, it's also useful to go through that process from the moderator side at least once or twice, so you see what the experience is like, and also how you can do it better. From my own experience of finding myself suddenly not just a mod, but full admin, but having no guidelines. And now I know that if I'm going to do that with any community I run, not that I run a community, I now know that you can't just throw someone in there.
No.
It's
Discord
not fair on the community.
Yeah, Discord had a very cool thing. It's not active now, but they had a moderator academy. So there would be a test for you to go through, and once you did, you would get a little, a badge. No, how do you call it? The badge, badge on Discord to mention that you are the Discord moderator. That they finished the course. They removed it now, which I find a little bit sad, but maybe, I don't know, maybe people were cheating on this test or things like that, and it was easy to, I don't know what was the reason, but it was also one of the indicators that would show me that somebody was, taking it seriously and had some knowledge about the community management. So a small thing, but helps you to recognize people that already know something about it.
Oh, that is unfortunately that Discord took that away. When I asked you in advance if there was anything specific you'd like to talk about, you mentioned about you'd like to talk about the options for community managers to be promoted. What are those options?
So I think it will be depending on the company you're in, but what I noticed, throughout those years, and in many companies, it feels like it's a job that has no options to be promoted. I think this is how lots of community managers are feeling, that they go maybe from moderating, then I'm going to become a community manager, senior community manager. And then what else? Lots of them would move maybe to marketing, become like a product marketing manager. But I think this is a little bit sad that often there's not so many positions that help you to kind of stay in the community, that pick this as your role and basically just try to evolve there. I was lucky enough that I got this opportunity at Gameloft, so I became a global social portfolio lead, which means I was basically, in the easiest way, managing teams of community managers, without getting too much into the details here. And I think that was a great way to actually use my skills, to later also help other community managers to do a better job. But I think it's really on the companies to help community managers to understand what is the possible path for them when they join the team. Because right now we are in the situation that I feel that when we search for senior community managers, there's not so many to find because lots of them pivot to something completely different afterwards. And all this knowledge and, all these professionals that could be just getting better at their jobs is kind of disappearing. And we often to think about the community management as just an entry position to gaming, which is a shame because, again, it really requires a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge. It's not so easy to be just good at it from the get-go. Of course, there are people, but I work with a lot of amazing junior community managers that usually they would come from just being very involved in some communities they were part of. But nevertheless, often I see that, you got these passionate people that later were stuck and where they didn't know where to go from this position to actually evolve. So yeah, my message would be that it would be much better if the companies provide the better roads for the career path for the community managers.
You said that your first role in the gaming industry was Omnidrone, which was, I think you said, about 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's really hard there for there to be any path up from a community manager. A company that small, a studio that small, really doesn't have anything to offer you after community manager, unless perhaps you change your role completely inside the studio.
Yeah.
But in a bigger studio or a publisher where there is actually a need for a hierarchy of community managers or community roles, perhaps that's the difference.
That's the difference. But then often when you become a senior, what's next, right?
Yeah.
This is the question that I think some companies basically need to answer, or to make sure that the job is basically that they are giving the value to the community managers that they have. So there should be some ways to do that, because there's this image that the community manager is a 20-year-old, right? And at some point, if you are 40, you should already pivot it to, I don't know, live ops or monetization or product itself. So so I think that's a shame right now in the gaming industry. At least this is how I've seen it from the places I worked in.
Yeah, especially if you're in community, because that's your personality. The one who really enjoys engaging with players and encouraging them and so on. Good point. Julia, I wonder if you have a story of a challenge you faced as a community manager that stands out in your memory. Oh, too many.
Yes, but I'm just thinking about which I can actually talk, because I think there are a few that I cannot mention that much. But let me think. I mean, one of the biggest. Okay, I can talk about this one, and it was a lesson for me as well. So we had an update in Asphalt 9, and people were hating it. It was horrible. It was such a horrible backlash we were getting all over socials. My Discord was on fire. And what I did is I think I'm possibly got a little bit too engaged in that. And of course, I put like a safe mode on Discord, slow mode on Discord, which means, people can post on me every now and then. I started basically deleting and warning people and banning them from Discord. And it was a bit much of a wave ban. I think until now, when I go to Asphalt 9 Discord, which I do every now and then. I do some lurking, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see some point about, oh, remember when Mina banned like 100 people in one day? And I'm like, oh yes, I might have overreacted back then. But it's funny how this one situation then almost becomes, what you have done, and people will remember it for years because it was like basically a huge ban wave that I did. Not the best example. I'm pretty sure I could have approached it a little bit better, but things comes also with time. And to be honest, for me, it's just funny now to find the reminiscences of this situation still, living on Discord.
So knowing now what you know, if that situation was repeated, what would you do differently?
I would start with, I would still put the slow mode most likely, but I think I would create much more clearer communications about the players with it. And basically, if they wanted to vent a little bit, vent, to be honest, that's let them say those things. It also shows that they are actually, really engaged in our game, even if they are saying mean things sometimes. And the warnings and bans would be only for the ones that are really just, going very much against the rules of Discord. And of course, making sure that we resolve this and communicate to the players as soon as possible. And that would be it. I would not have banned so many people as I did.
I really like the story. Julia, we are running out of time, but I do have one final question for you. It's the most important question. What games have you been playing lately?
So there's two games I'm playing on like a lot. One is Slay the Spire 2, and I think I have like 200 hours, which is almost scary since the game is still in early access. I'm loving it. I haven't played Slay the Spire 1, so that's
Oh, you
my
haven't?
introduction.
I
No,
wanted to ask you, how similar was it to Slay the Spire 1? Because I've heard that it's more or less it's more like a content update than a real new version.
maybe. So for me,
Okay.
I'm just starting like that, so I don't know, but it's a great game, and finally I started winning more because I was horrible at some point. I was I was just getting my butt kicked in the with the boss fights at some point that it was horrible. My win rate was just
Uh-huh.
dramatic.
You learn how to build up the synergies in that game.
Yes,
I fade away too much. And
Um,
what's your favorite character in it? Which one do you tend to play?
the first one I finished. Oh my God, Regent.
Regent, yeah.
Regent. Sorry, let's Regent was
I
my
think
favorite
that's how
character.
it's said. Not having played number 2, I actually don't know, but
Yeah, that's my favorite. I think it has the most like the mechanics that just work the best for me. I find it super fun. I love using the sword actually, but yeah, I think that's my favorite. My least favorite is the basic one, the Ironclad.
yeah,
I
yeah.
still this one I have like just 3 ascensions, so I will have to push it a little bit more in the future. And then another game I've been playing now, it's they released the DLC for Dave the Diver this week,
Mm-hmm.
the jungle version. So it makes me so happy because I love this game so much. I love diving, by the way. So it's nice to actually play the game does have a diving as the theme, and I find it very relaxing. So it's a very opposite from playing, I don't know, some super action games. Yeah, sometimes when there's a big shark, maybe I'm gonna get a bit more stressed. But apart from that, I find this game super cute, relaxing, and I love it. And the third game I want to mention, it's Orbital Blues. I'm playing. It's a tabletop. I'm playing with friends of mine through Discord. Actually, we are not using any Zooms now or whatever. Discord is really the best platform to set it up. And it's basically Cowboy Bebop, Firefly. So kind of, it's kind of a Wild West in space. And it's really nice just to meet with friends every week or two, and have a game like this. I highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Julia, we need to wrap things up. So thank you again for being on the
Thank
show.
you very much.
The show that actually you help promote and plan. I think this is really great that people who use Feature Upvote, or at least curious about it, can actually see a bit of the story behind the name. And you are actually you've seen managing our social media accounts quite actively. So when people are wondering, why does this Feature Upvote Twitter account have so much to say about this and that? Now they know why.
Yeah,
So this has been
I'm
wonderful.
definitely using my personality and what I like to talk about Feature Upvote. So, yes, some of the statements you hear from Feature Upvote, it's probably me, not Steve, but I'm hoping, I'm hoping you like those things as well, or you would if you play them.
Now, where can listeners get in touch if they'd like to know more about you or what we've discussed today?
So LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm not super active on Twitter, but you can find me under Euler with double R in the end. And I'm planning to reactivate it a little bit more because, yes, I've been quite basically silent there. But on LinkedIn, I'm now trying to be more and more active, and I've been using this platform a lot.
Okay, and I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. Okay, bye, Julia.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Community Lounge podcast. If you enjoyed it, please spread the word and share it with friends and colleagues who you think would also enjoy it. And to make sure you don't miss an episode, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. And please give the show a rating or give a review, as this helps listeners find the podcast and it makes me feel good. You can find past episodes or learn more about the show at featureupvote.com/thecommunitylounge. And finally, I'm going to leave you with a short ad for Feature Upvote, the player feedback platform I created and the sponsor of the show. Bye.
Your players love your game, but the community has ideas, and lots of them. The trouble is, their feedback is scattered across Discord, forums, social media, and somewhere deep within your inbox. You feel like you are drowning in feedback. That's where Feature Upvote comes in. With Feature Upvote, you can centralize all your player feedback in one place. Set up a feedback board where your community can post suggestions and vote for their favorites. The most popular ideas rise to the top, giving you a clear, data-driven roadmap. Pages are fully customizable to match your game's art style and vibe. With no logins required, no friction, just instant organized feedback from the people who care most. Stunlock Studios, the team behind V Rising, uses Feature Upvote as a centralized, organized way to collect and prioritize player feedback. With spam filtering, duplicate merging, and integrations for tools like Jira and Discord, nothing slips through the cracks. As a result, more player satisfaction and a stronger, loyal community. Get started today and get the flood of player feedback under control.